Hi everyone, welcome to Papa's Workshop. I am super excited today because I designed another cabinet that takes up a very small amount of wall space and gets over 4 times the storage. And this is what happens. This one rotates and these individual panels will rotate, meaning that you can put tools on both sides of this cabinet on all 6 sides. Let me show you how I did it today. Let's get started. After drawing everything on the plywood and getting a basic design set up, I went ahead and cut this out. Now the actual thought process or the design video is on the Patreon site for Patreon members, and that site is really beginning to grow, and I want to thank everybody for that. Now you can see in the video where I have both designs drawn on the plywood. I didn't really need to do that, but you'll see why in the Patreon video. And then I just went ahead and taped these 2 panels together so that I can cut them out at the same time. And I wanted to be able to tape it good so that it wouldn't move during the cutting. Now that it's all taped together, you can see what the design is going to be looking like. I'm ready to actually start to cut this out. The first step is to take a utility knife and score along the lines. This is going to help minimize the tear out of the plywood when I use the circular saw to cut it. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and cut out the center column to be able to support the top and bottom. And I'm setting the table saw up to be able to cut these at 4 1/4 inches. Now I need 4 of these cut to form the column, and this is just a square column. Yes, I could make it into 6 different parts, but there's really no need to be able to do that. All I need is just a center column to support the top and bottom. I think being able to keep it simple and easy to be able to do will be better for everybody if you want to recreate this project. Now what I did is I went ahead and sanded all the edges, so that was taken care of, and I had put an X here to be able to have as a reference so that I could put these back together exactly the way that I wanted, because there may be some slight variations and I don't want that to show up in the finished product. This is my 5x5 box that I said that I was going to use, and I had a choice. I could either cut this 2 of them at 5 inches and then the 2 small ones in there, or I could just cut 4 1/4 inches and do all 4 of them. And that's what I decided to do. Just cut 4 at 4 1/4 inches, and I ended up making this at 17 inches tall. And that's just because of how the wood worked out. There was really no other reason for that. The other thing that I'm going to do now is tape these back together, and I want to be able to mark and pre-drill all my holes around so that I'll have perfect alignment between the top and the bottom. And it's important to have the alignment exactly where it needs to be. Otherwise, it will be crooked and look just horrible and probably not function correctly. What I'm doing is finding the center between these 2 outer points. And this was 9 inches, if you'll recall. So the half is 4 1/2 inches. And this is recessed back 3/8 of an inch. That's going to be the center point. And with this center point, what I'm going to do now is pre-drill this all the way through with a small pilot drill bit. I'm also going to drill some holes in here to be able to help align it. This hole right here in the center, that's going to be my 1 1/4 inch, and I have a Forstner bit to be able to take care of that hole. Now again, this dowel rod is actually probably bigger than what I need, but it's what I had on hand. And you know, from the past videos, I like to use as much as what I can from the scrap bin. And this one is no different. Next, I just took a very small bit and drilled the pilot holes all the way through to be able to have those align perfectly. And then on this part, I use the drill press. The drill press throat's not long enough to be able to reach to that center, so I had to use the drill. Now I'm taking the center column and I'm going to assemble it. And to do that, I'm using the glue and some brad nails to be able to nail this together to be able to hold it in place. And again, this is just going to slip on top with the glue and then nail in place. And because these are all four the same size, it actually goes together very easily. Now to be able to assemble this, I really had a choice. I could have used screws, but screws really is a bit overkill, so I decided that in the sense of ease, the brad nails would work just fine and hold it. I'm taking a 1/4 inch Forstner bit and going ahead and drilling these holes 3/8 inch deep. And this is on the bottom panel only. Now it's time to just assemble the top and the bottom together using the column as my support piece. Now that everything's assembled, I'm just going to lightly sand everything one more time and then paint. It was time to go back to the scrap bin to find different pieces of plywood that I could use for my panels that actually turn. Now from the design video, these are 7 inches. So I went ahead and set the table saw up for that. Now I'm going to need 6 of these panels. And these are the panels that will turn on those pivot points that I had drilled earlier. And you'll see that this is a mixture of different types of plywood. Again, this is just leftover scraps from my scrap bin. Now I'll be placing tools on both sides of these panels so that they can turn and I'll be able to have access to them. So as far as being a different types of plywood, I'm not too worried about it. But once I had those cut to the width, I just turned and cut the length. And the next thing I want to do is cut some 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch blocks of wood. And these are going to be glued to the top and bottom of these panels. And this is going to give the panel the support and be able to hold the part where it pivots. Now I'm using the premium pine for this, so there's no knots in this. And now that I have the 3/4 by 3/4 cut, it's time to get the length. And these are going to be 7 inches, the same width as the panels themselves. Okay, I've got all the pieces cut that are 3/4 by 3/4 by 7 inches long. Now originally what I was going to do is just take my panels and glue this directly on like this. And what that's going to do, and I think this will work fine, but what it does, it puts all the pressure of the weight on this glue joint and this glue joint alone. So the risk of that glue joint is possible. It could break loose. I doubt it, but you know what? I'm not going to take a chance. For those of you who want to do it this method, I really believe it's going to work fine. Depending on the weight and how many tools that you put on this could make a difference. But because of this surface area, I don't think that you're going to put enough tools on it to actually break the glue joint. But what I'm going to do is change my design, and I'm having the slot put in here so that that will slide right in, and I'll glue that in place. Other than that, everything else is exactly the same. Now what I've done is I actually set the height of this blade to be 3/8 of an inch. This will slide right through, and then once you're finished, it'll turn around and slide again. And what that does, it guarantees that this slot will be in the dead center. Now make sure that when you're cutting this, you definitely want to be able to use the push sticks to be able to push this through the wood, through the saw. Using the 2 push sticks, I can take the orange one and push it down and toward the fence. And the yellow push stick, I'm just pushing it through the saw blade. And that's the safest way to do it. It keeps the fingers far away from that blade. Okay, now that I have all of the grooves in the part, I'm going to go ahead now and just lay out the center. I want to drill that pilot hole. And remember, this is 7 inches long, so that's going to be 3.5 inches to the center point. Okay, I have all the pilot holes drilled now, and what I need to do is take 6 of these because these are going to go on the bottom of the panel, and I'm going to drill this through 3/8 of an inch to be able to receive the dowel rod that I have. It's going to go 3/8 of an inch deep, and I'm using the 1/4 inch Forstner bit to be able to drill this hole. The next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and cut my panels to the new length. I need to cut off 3/4 of an inch. Now I set the table saw up where I could cut the 3/4 of an inch off, and I decided just to stack them up and cut all 6 at the same time. This way all 6 would be exactly the same size. And I had put these marks in here so I knew exactly where they needed to be, and now I'm just going to go ahead and pre-drill these holes to be able to accept the screws. I'm going to put a washer on here as well. Then I'm going to go ahead and screw these in to the point where they just come through the wood itself. Okay, so that's sticking out. To insert these panels, I went ahead and cut the 1/4 inch dowel rods, and I cut them 9/16 of an inch. So I'm going to slip that in place, and I'm also going to use a washer, which is a 1/4 inch washer. That will just drop in place. And then I have my hole down here that was done earlier, and slide that in place and screw it down. I decided to use screws because one, is very easy, and if for some reason I ever want to change out the panel, it's very easy to be able to do. Just literally unscrew it and slip the panel out. And now we have all 6 panels in, all of them turn, and none of them hit each other. That is exactly what I had envisioned. The only thing I need to do now is build my wall mount. Okay, so by doing this turntable, how much square footage did we gain? Well, let's take a look. We have a panel, and we have a front and a back. So this will be the back of the panel, and this will be the front. This panel is 7 inches by 17 inches. And if you multiply that out, that's 119 square inches. This one also is 119 square inches because that's the back side of it. This equals 238 square inches of space that we were able to gain. Now then, we have 6 panels. And if we multiply the 238 times the 6, we're going to get 1,428 square inches of space that we've been able to gain. So how do we convert that over to square footage? So we have 1,428 square inches. How many square inches are there in 1 foot? Well, 12 by 12 is 144. So if we divide the 144 into my 1428, that's going to come out to be 9.9 square feet that we've been able to gain. Now, how much square footage was actually on the wall? The wall space that we are using is 18 times 18. And that's going to be 324 square inches, because this is inches at this point. And if I take my 324 and divide that by 144, that's going to end up being 2.25. So that's my wall space that I have, 2.25 square feet, and this is the amount of space that I've gained by being able to build this turntable. So that's about over 4 times the square footage. That, guys, I love. 4 times the square footage for that space. This turntable was a huge, huge success, and I love it. To start on the mount for the wall bracket, I cut down the premium pine boards down to my 5 inches wide, and then I created a notch that was also the 3/4 of an inch by 5 inches. No need to change that. And I cut that notch on both sides of the board. Now I need to determine from my arm that goes across where I need to drill the holes. And I want to make sure that in case one of these panels is open, that it'll still clear. This is actually a shorter distance. And it looks like if I drill my hole 2.5 inches from the end, I think that's going to do good. Now I have both pieces that are exactly the same size. So I'll measure back the 2.5 inches. I'll drill all the way through one and halfway through the other one. The one I drill halfway through will be, of course, the one on the bottom. Okay, I have the 2 holes drilled. This one is drilled all the way through. This will be the top piece, and this one's drilled halfway through, and that will support the dowel rod on the bottom. Now it's time to go ahead and assemble this, and I'm going to assemble the bottom portion first. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the glue in here. Now I use this method of cutting the notch because I did not want to have nails or screws going into the end grain. This will be much, much stronger having it nail into the side. Make sure everything is exactly flush, and then we'll nail it in. So I want to run a bead of glue down this side, and do the same thing over here. We'll pull this one over to make sure that it's aligned correctly. This as well is perfectly flush. Now the next thing I want to do is to determine the height. So I'm actually sitting this on here. Now one of the things I want to make sure is I don't want this whole turntable to be rubbing on this. So basically what I'm going to do is make a washer that will slip in there, and this is the space that I have right now. So now what I need to do is mark this other end, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use a piece of this leftover plywood that I have to make the washer, and so I'm just going to put that down as well and put my mark, and then I'm going to add about 1/4 of an inch just to have a little bit of space because I don't want it to be really, really tight. So I'm going to glue and I'm going to screw this piece in place. And what I'm going to do is use these 2 pieces of wood to make the washers. I'm going to set this up on a measurement about 1 3/4. It's going to be just a little bit big. We'll pull that back a little bit. So what did that end up being? So I'm going to set this up for 1.5 inches. That's going to give me a 3-inch circle. I'm going to go ahead and draw that right here. I can use the Forstner bit to drill my hole for my 1.25 inches. Then I'll cut the other part out with the bandsaw. And I'll make 2 of those. I want to show you this up close in the camera where I have my 3-inch circle, and I've got the outline done. I don't need to show the Forstner because I'm just going to drill the inner circle with that bit, and I have my center point. Now in just a couple minutes, I've got 2 washers. That'll work just great. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and mount this on top. I'm going to glue it, and I'm also going to nail it. Then I'll put a couple of screws in as well. Yes, this is going into the end grain, but there's really not a lot of strength issues here. Now that this last screw is going in, it's time to mount this to the wall and test out this new turntable. I love it. Now this video is getting a little long, so the next video will be where I put all of the drill bits into this turntable cabinet. You don't want to miss that one. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.